Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you might be celebrating on this end of 2021. You are listening to the Pick Six podcast here. It's Evan Bland, it's Jimmy Watkins. Sam McKewon will be with us shortly. He had a little bit of breaking news that he stepped out for. He will be back.
Sam's Diet Dr. Pepper is with us.
His Diet Dr. Pepper remains on the table as he stepped aside for a few moments. And man, we're winding down the year. We had a Pick Six podcast last Thursday. This is a Tuesday, so pretty quick turnaround. There really hasn't been a lot of movement with the football program since we last spoke. I thought we pretty well covered what was going on last week with transfers, with recruiting, with coaching changes. It's been pretty quiet this week. We heard a little bit, Jimmy, from Trev Alberts, the AD, on the radio the other night saying that last open coaching spot is coming along soon. He knows what the plan is. What Scott Frost is looking to do. He likes it. They're not ready to announce it yet.
Well, didn't he also say he still needs a little work in a certain area or something like that?
A little work in a certain area.
Something like that.
Yes. So as everyone knows, there's an opening still for special teams.
He's talking either running backs or
and running
teams.
Backs.
Yeah.
So they'll figure that out. But really not a lot of other ground to look at with Nebraska football. A little bit of movement with the quarterback transfer portal.
No Bo Nix.
Bo Nix
Hate
to Oregon. So Keaton Slovis looks like to Pitt. So some of these names continue to be crossed off. Nebraska, not the destination for those. But while we wait for Sam, Jimmy, you were saying something about Christmas movies and how Home Alone's not one of them. What's up with that?
I said a little bit about it last night on Twitter and just got a bunch of people telling me I was dumb. But Fred Hoiberg did his weekly. Sometimes it seems like these radio shows are bi-weekly. It seems like they're always happening. But he did his radio show last night, and one of the last questions that Jessica Cootie asked him was, "What's your favorite Christmas movie?" Or, what are you doing for Christmas? And he's like, "Oh, Home Alone, for sure." And I'm just like, what? Like, Home Alone is, yes, Home Alone, there's like a Christmas backdrop to it, and, it's winter, and the kid, I think he even, wishes that his parents would come back. Like, that's part of the movie, right? But the movie's about two thugs trying to steal something from a kid. That's what the movie's about. That's nothing to do with Christmas. There's no Christmas spirit to it. There's no Christmas miracle. There's no magic around it. When I think Christmas movies, I'm thinking either the plot is directly related to Christmas, or there's a Christmas and a Christmas feel to it. It's a Wonderful Life, Christmas feel to it. It's it's about that the gooey goodness inside us, right?
Yeah, so I've thought about that. I've thought about this for a while, what makes a Christmas movie. So I think how we define a Christmas movie is key. So if you I
think it's just if say a movie, I know whether it is or not. If the
movie and the plot took place at a time other than Christmas, would it still hold up? So the eternal debate about Die Hard, would that, if it was a St. Patrick's Day party that they were having, right, would it be the same movie? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. And instead of the ho 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 stuff, it might be a leprechaun one-liner or something like that. But I don't. It's hard. Because you're right. It's kind of a feel thing almost more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, to apply your logic to it, Home Alone could do a lot of different holidays. Thanksgiving, St. Patrick's Day, Christmas is not necessary to that deal. But yeah, I don't know. On that note, if you wished everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah, whatever. You didn't wish everyone a preemptive Happy Nebraska basketball win over Kennesaw State. That's quite rude of you. Kennesaw State
is that a gift that Nebraska fans are going to get? Another win from this team?
It's the closest thing. It's the closest thing they could get to one right now, I think, given not only the 5-game losing streak itself, but the nature of a lot of these 5-game losing streaks. I mean, the Kansas State game was competitive, I guess, but it was still really, 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 really ugly. They've now lost 4 games where they've held their opponents at 40% shooting or worse, which is just really hard to do. And Kennesaw State has beaten, God bless that program, but they've beaten one Division I program this year, so I'm going to go ahead and knock that one out. Yeah, it should be a gift for the people. More of a stocking stuffer than something you put under the tree, but yeah.
So when Sam joins us, this is going to be a relatively short podcast by Pick Six podcast standards. We're going to talk about some of our stories of the year within Husker Athletics. A lot of these stories will also sort of carry over into 2022. And we're going to make some bowl picks. But while we're waiting for them, let's talk a little bit more about hoops. I mean, my goodness gracious. What's their record now?
They are 5-7.
5-7. But they're just they're bringing a lot of angst to fans. Like,
Very true.
You know, I've watched most of the games, and it seems there's something about this team that just pisses people off. Like,
well, it's like
what's your
people's idealistic vision of basketball, which is what Fred Hoiberg was like supposed to bring in, this whirring cog of a machine where the ball just keeps moving. Everyone knows exactly where the ball's going to go at all times. It's drive and kick, and eventually someone's going to get an open three or an open layup. It's going to be perfect, picturesque. It's, you know, people can bash against analytics, but you will see why the machine works the way it does. You will see why the computer spits out these numbers, right? It's just the opposite of that. It's 15 seconds left on the shot clock. We've passed the ball a few times. Step back 3 time. 30-foot 3 time. And that's the Kansas State game. As I was rewatching, you know, that's been a theme the entire year, but man, it really stood out to me rewatching that game. Whether it was Bryce McKewon's, the worst one of the entire night, very early in the shot clock, early in the second half. I think there's like 16 or 17 minutes left. Bryce has the ball on the left wing, tries a step back, and before he puts it up, I started laughing. I looked at Chris Basnett of the Lincoln Journal-Star. I just started laughing. I was like, it's not going to go well. And it was one of the worst air balls of the year. And it turned into a 3-pointer at the other end. And it's just like, particularly with Bryce, he's a freshman, he's a kid. I don't want to go too hard on the kid, but he seems to love that shot more than everyone else. He takes one of a game, whether it's a step back or a way too deep of a 3-pointer. Those are like heat check type shots, and my man is shooting like 20% from 3, maybe a little higher than that. I think he made 2 last game, but like it's not that much better. And so it's a situation where Fred Hoiberg, the ultimate give you the green light guy, you know, shooters shoot, all that sort of stuff. He's been preaching confidence that this stuff is going to turn around, and he's still saying, you know, I do think we're going to start making threes, stuff like that, but it's to the point where he's now put his foot down and he's saying, I just got to start benching guys. And if guys like Bryce, like I think Bryce McKewon is someone who is like could get yanked, which at the beginning of the year just seemed like really hard thing to, like, first 5-star in school history. As I've said on this podcast multiple times, how Bryce's experience goes at Nebraska this year will color how good of a shot Nebraska has at future 5-star guys, because it's a small circle. Those guys talk, but man, like you got to start winning games and you got to hammer your message home somehow. Alonzo Verge has been benched for taking rough shots this year, but he's kind of the only one I can think of, and maybe that's just because he's been around the block a little bit longer than some of those guys. You know, he's 22, 23 years old, kind of senior, but it's reached a DEFCON level that I didn't think we could get to, honestly. When Fred Hoiberg, who again is one of the most lenient, particularly in college basketball, one of the most lenient coaches about shot selection, is saying, no. Like he said during today's media availability, that he went up on the whiteboard and wrote down, like, here's a good shot, here's a bad shot. If you guys take these, you're coming out of the game. So if the Kennesaw State game gets ugly tomorrow, which, hey, we've seen enough this year to know that that's entirely possible, and some of those same shots start flying, it could get really interesting.
So, like, where's the disconnect in all this? Is it the players aren't as good as shooters as everyone thought, or is it the system just isn't you know, I don't know, holding up against some of these opponents and not made for the Big Ten? Like, where does this huge gap and disconnect coming from?
I think something that has been maybe a little bit underlooked during the season is that Alonzo Verge was like a last-minute contingency plan. Alonzo Verge was, oh, crap, Delano Banton's going to the draft and going to get drafted. We need to grab someone to run this thing. And Alonzo Verge, as Hoiberg has mentioned many times, has entire life been a bucket getter. When Alonzo Verge has the ball in his hands, he's going to the basket, he's trying to shoot a layup, or he's trying to get a step-back mid-range or a weird one-footer off. And they're trying to pound those habits out of him in one summer, basically. It looked good for 2 preseason games, and then the first time that it stopped working, Alonzo Verge's old instincts kicked in, and he said, okay, I'm going to... He's not that he's like this crazy ball hog, that he forces a shot every time. He still forces the shot a lot of the time, but he does make some nice passes. But his natural instinct is still to fall back on, all right, you guys aren't doing it, I'll do it. So there's that element to it. There is the element to what you were saying about the shooters. I mean, these guys are just not making shots. Like, Casey Tominaga, CJ Wilcher are the 2 best, I think, by percentage three-point shooters on the team right now. They're hovering around 33% last I checked. Nebraska thought those dudes were going to be 40% with a bullet, and that's not happening. And then the guys who they thought might hover around 33, 34, 35%, Lat Mayen shot 34.8% from 3 last year. He's shooting 21.6% from 3 this year. Wilhelm Breidenbach, who they thought would be like a stretchy kind of guy. I know he's hurt right now, but he's not making anything, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Alonzo Verge, he doesn't shoot a ton of them, but I think he's like 5 for 24 from threes. And to his credit, he doesn't take too many bad ones. He only takes them when he's open. They're just not going in. Bryce McKewon's another guy who shot 40+%, I think, from 3 in high school. It's not necessarily translated. So it's like a cavalcade of everything, kind of. And then when everything goes bad, again and again and again and again, they're just, at this point, part of it, you can't blame the whole thing on shots aren't going in, but their confidence has just shot right now. The confidence in the system, confidence in their shot. I mean, they changed the system. That's probably part of why that happened. The confidence is just very low right now, and understandably so.
So when a team struggles to this point and sort of the writing's on the wall for the season, like I think we can all agree that Nebraska's not going to be a bubble team for the NCAA tournament. So the discussion sort of turns to like bigger picture questions, sort of like during football season when a bowl game was out of contention or not in the realm of possibility. There was talk about, why can't Frost get it done, so on and so forth. On the basketball side, as somebody who is in your first season covering this particular team, Nebraska basketball has the history that everybody knows about. They haven't won a tournament game. They haven't been since 2014, I believe it was. But you see other programs around the country having success. If a place like Ames, Iowa can have success, if a place like Manhattan, Kansas can have success, what's been so elusive about Nebraska? And maybe more for you, Jimmy, what's the solution moving forward? Is this blueprint something Nebraska can stick to long term, or is there a different approach? If it were you, a different approach that you would take to
I alluded to this when we were talking about hoops last week. I've been thinking a lot about the way Nebraska constructs its roster, and Matt Abdelmassih likes to say that it's like the NBA. It's like NBA free agency. How many teams do you see building a championship team? I'm not going to impersonate. I thought about impersonating Matt's New York accent. I don't think I'd do a very good job. But he says it's like the NBA. How many teams do you see in the NBA building a championship team based solely off the draft? You can't do it. You get help through free agency. And sure, that's true, but this is not the NBA, and I don't think the NBA is the perfect analogy. I think it's more of an NFL situation where the NFL teams do build the vast majority of championship rosters through the draft. That's your foundation, and then you fill in like the blanks. We got a hole at corner. Let's go out and spend some money on a corner. You got a hole at tight end. Let's go spend some money on a tight end. The peripheral type things that you missed during the draft, those are like the cherries on top. Is what you do in free agency. Nebraska's doing a lot of the NBA of the dipping into free agency quite a bit. They're going in the transfer portal for half the roster, a lot through these first few seasons, and they've had to, because they weren't left with a lot, and they've been changing out the talent, trying to upgrade the talent to get to a certain level. But I think it's pretty clear that you cannot do what they were doing at Iowa State at this point, because you have way more competition out there. That's one thing. I think that point has been made by a bunch of people, but I also think that there's just way more people in the transfer portal now because it's easier to play after transferring, and there's a much wider variety of reasons because it's easier to get in the transfer portal. It's a much wider variety of reasons why people are in there, which makes it even more of a crapshoot to go in there and try to pull someone out. So why did CJ Wilcher transfer from Xavier? I don't want to pick on him because I actually think that he's been one of their better players, not named Alonzo Verge or Bryce McKewon this year, but he shot about 33% from 3 at Xavier. He was a 4-star prospect, and I've seen my man's high school highlights. It was because he was making 3-pointers. That's pretty much all that I've seen from him in high school. So 33% from 3, didn't play a ton. He transfers. Okay, maybe I'll get more shots here. What's he doing here? Hovering around 33% from 3. What if C.J. Wilcher is just a 33% 3-point shooter in college? What if that's the case? I'm not saying that is the case, but it could be. We've had 2 seasons of evidence now. But yeah, I mean, then you got. I'm trying to think of some other guys that they've tried to pluck from the transfer portal. Casey's not the Steph Curry kind of guy that he so far hasn't been the Steph Curry, Japanese Steph Curry that they proclaimed him to be, even though he worked his way into the starting lineup and has gotten hot a few times. It's just the transfer portal is a crapshoot, and it's Matt likes to say it's a total crapshoot for mid-major guys. I think it's just the pool is so big at this point. There are so many different people in there, so many different reasons to go in there. It's a crapshoot for everyone, and that's a hard way. It's a hard avenue through which to rely on when you're building a roster.
We have Sam with us here now.
Hey,
he has joined us.
I was writing about contract numbers. Okay, let's play a guessing game before you go on to your next big story.
Yeah.
How much does Mickey Joseph make in a year?
I have not seen this.
No, you haven't.
850,000.
I was going to say 750.
600.
Oh.
I think they got him for a pretty good rate.
That's a bargain.
How much is Donovan Raiola making?
350,000.
I'm really glad you're letting Evan guess first. I'll say 200.
325.
Oh.
So that means Barrett Root's probably going to come up because I think Barrett is below that number.
Chenander might be getting a raise.
Chenander's at 8. We didn't get Whipple, so we just got the 2. We didn't get Whipple. My understanding is Whipple is going to at least double his salary from Pitt, so it's going to be at least 900, and it could be $1 million, somewhere in there. And I would make Chenander your highest paid coordinator if you had to. That would be what I would do.
Yeah.
Because he's had 4 consecutive years of improving defense, and a lot was put on that defense last year. All right, what's your next big story?
So we've been talking basketball actually, and some of the disconnect between the shooters and the system, and just kind of what's going on. We haven't gotten to the stories yet, but I'd love to hear some of the ones that you guys came up with. So the idea just being 2021 Nebraska athletics. What are some of your bigger stories, whether that's a team, whether that's a trend, something else? What comes to mind for you guys when you think of, in whatever order, some of your top stories from 2021?
Nebraska football is completely different than it was at the time that we spoke last year over Zoom. We're almost the 1-year anniversary of the last game of the season. When Nebraska beat Germany. I think we're just past it by 2 days, i.e. East Germany. I said the beat Germany, didn't I?
You did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the game felt like it was in East Germany when they beat Rutgers. And the most unforgettable road game of my life. I've never experienced anything like that again. The weirdest feeling, one of the most memorable moments from COVID, other than getting COVID, is that. So we're 1 year out, and Nebraska football is completely different. Same coach, very, very, very different situation. And to me, if you're talking about the biggest story from Nebraska athletics in the last year, it's what I would describe as the end of a very dysfunctional, misaligned system of decision-making, moving to a very aligned and functional framework of decision-making. Whether or not it creates success, we'll see. But I think going forward, Nebraska is something that makes sense. I think you have an athletic director in Trev Alberts who is also an effective general manager of the football program, so to speak. And I think what you're seeing is an alignment being put into place and a certain value system. And again, whether the value system works or not, I don't know, but it's a value system. It's not storytelling and, ad hoc, tension between the athletic director and the guy that used to run the football operations guy who's not there anymore. Like, a lot of that stuff is gone. And to me, even more than the wins and the losses on the field, if you're talking long-term story, the thing that's going to carry in 2022, it's that football changed the day that Bill Moose was given early retirement, and 2 weeks later when Trev Alberts took the job. Completely changed.
I mean, that was one of mine essentially too, was just the change in leadership from Bill Moose to Trev Alberts, and I enjoyed talking to Bill, working with Bill.
I did too.
You know, he's a great guy. I'm sure he'll have a great retirement, but you know, Trev Alberts, you know, the joke's out there that he sleeps in a suit. I mean, he's I think that sort of mentality is something that he brings to the athletic department. Right. He's a 7-day-a-week guy. You know, I think his kids are all out of the house, or all but out of the house, and so this is something he's fully invested in. He's from here. He's an alum, and there's I think a vision to his approach that just hasn't been there in a long time at the leadership level. Whether that's grooming coaches, whether that's bringing along facilities, whether that's being intentional about the fan experience at Memorial Stadium. I think there's a lot of different things there, and it's funny, when he was hired last summer, I was on vacation with some of my in-laws, and we saw the news break, and I told them, I said, you know, Trev Alberts is going to be the new AD at Nebraska, and their first reaction was, so they did a nationwide search to bring a guy in from 60 miles away who happened to go to the school, and I think that initial vibe or reaction has subsided largely. I think he's been really impressive in his first 6 months on the job, and absolutely it's going to be interesting to see how he continues to transform the athletic department.
I would say, to relate this to another story that I've considered to be one of the biggest of 2021, the noise around Scott's job security or lack thereof. Yeah. It'll be really, really fascinating to see how Trev handles that next year, because this year, first year AD, I mean, I think it was the right call for him to preach patience and say, you know, we're not putting numbers on win totals that need to be hit or anything. That's great for the first year, you know, for the situation that they were in, where they were playing all those close games. That's not working next year. You can't say that. You can't say that at the beginning of the season, or you can say at the beginning of the season, I guess, next year, but you can't say that midway through the season next year. There has to be a certain expectation, I think, that for them to meet, for Scott will either fail or succeed. Yeah. That has to be laid at some point, and it'll be fascinating to see how we're seeing Scott evolve into the buttoned-up CEO type role. It will be fascinating to see how that evolves if things don't go Nebraska's way next year. It'll be fascinating to see the way the fan base reacts if it doesn't go well, and then it will be fascinating to see how the expectations evolve if it does go well. If Nebraska wins, I don't know, 7 or 8 games next year, which I think is very doable. I think that schedule is very workable. What does it look like for the next year? You know, can you realistically expect them to win 9 or 10 coming up? Because, again, a lot of this stuff is schedule-based. So I think those two stories are kind of fused together. Scott and Trev have formed an alliance, and so it makes sense that those two storylines would be one and the same.
That's a great analysis. A couple of things. One, I think Trev wasn't going to take the job in 2017 because of the leadership that was in place at the time. I think he was open to the job in 2021 because of the leadership that was in place, especially at the president role with Ted Carter. I think I wrote at the time that he got the job, you know, Scott Frost just got a boss, and he did, and that's a good thing. To be clear, that's a really good thing. There's a certain clarity there about who's in charge, you know, who you go to. I think before, you know, Bill Moose was the front of the house, right? And he would even talk about this. I was front of the restaurant, front of the house. He was the front of the house. He wasn't the chef, and he wasn't the managing partner of the restaurant. He was the front of the house, and he was paid handsomely to be the front of the house. But that's exactly what he was. Trev is not that. Trev is not the front of the house. He's one of the lead investors in the restaurant. And so when the chef's got a problem, the chef doesn't go over Trev to somebody up here. He goes right to Trev. And I think it's also been made clear, hey, if you got a problem with me, or you got a problem or whatever, this is going to be a linear relationship. It's not going to be you're going to go up here relationship, or we're going to bypass Bill, or any of those things. And so I think that's the biggest story of the year that's going on. And to be honest with you, I think it was probably also true of the men's basketball program. You know, I think Fred was hired by Bill, but again, I think Fred now has a boss. Like he's working for somebody now, and that person's going to hold a lot of different kinds of people accountable. Not that Bill wasn't liked. I think a lot of people liked Bill, but I think at the same time, Bill had delegated so much to John Johnson and Garrett Classy, and Trev's not delegating like that. So he's working really, really hard. So to me, that's the biggest story of the year in Nebraska athletics was Trev Alberts. No question about it. And he's here, he's there, he's everywhere. And he's saying things out loud that we've talked about for a really long time. Many people in the media, us, other people in the media, about a lot of different things. And those things are finally being voiced. And it's encouraging because it feels like even though he is an insider there, you know, because he played there and all that, he talks like somebody who hasn't been, you know, ingrained there for 30 years and doesn't think nothing stinks. I think he realizes that Nebraska's imperfect and wants to make it better.
I'll give another one. The onset of name, image, likeness, how that arrived July 1st, I believe it was, and how that's changed college athletics forever, and Nebraska's certainly been a part of that. With the creation of ABM.
Still feels like we know so little about it, though.
Yeah, we do. And that's exactly something that's going to continue to carry over into 2022. You know, I heard John Cook, the volleyball coach, today saying that he feels like pay for play is on its way with how name, image, likeness has exploded even over 6 months, and how, you know, there's going to be there's always going to be an aspect of this that's going to remain private, because you can't get private companies or individuals and student athletes to reveal necessarily how much they're being paid or what that's like. So that's separate from official university business or a public university, things like that. So we've just seen the start of this thing, and we've seen, you know, podcasts pop up. We've seen players, you know, coaching youth. We've seen appearances. We've seen social media things show up, and it just feels like it's just the start. And it's already being built into how programs recruit and what kind of NIL money these student athletes can be offered, whether out of high school or through the portal. And I feel like in a year or two, it's going to look a lot different even than it does right now. But that's a major watershed moment in amateur athletics, collegiate athletics, and Nebraska's getting caught up in that. And the other thing I'd say about that is what felt like in July or August as a major advantage for Nebraska suddenly feels like more like they're part of the pack. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but it feels like, in July at least, I felt like Nebraska could leverage its massive fan base into money or social media followers for players. And I just wonder now if that's not going to be the case. But I mean, athletics and how we go about it changed forever this summer.
Feels like the big money is collected into a fund, and boosters contribute to that, and then they pay out of it. That feels like that's where the big money's going.
And everybody has that. Everyone has big money boosters.
Right. And so, you know, I don't know exactly how that's going to get regulated, how it's going to be figured out. Obviously, you know, at this moment, it's a relatively unfettered, unregulated market. When you have unfettered and unregulated markets, you know, you get imagine what an unfettered and unregulated market looks like politically or like commercially, and imagine what an area that is commercially zoned and has no rules about anything, any zoning. That's right, anarchy. But it's like you know, an open market. It's like a strip mall, or like just like an open air, you know, it's like a farmer's market. That's kind of what it is. Everybody's ever been to one, you know, there's a person over there, there's a person over there, this person's selling jewelry, this person's selling, what's the best thing in the farmer's market in Lincoln? It's the egg rolls. My God. Yeah. Those egg rolls are unbelievable. So there's an egg roll stand. You got to get the egg rolls. You know, there's other things, right? Like everybody's selling something.
Yep.
There's T-shirts over here. There's sunglasses over here.
And nothing has a set price, by the way.
Yeah. So, like, all of these things, when you create that kind of market, two things are going to be true. One, there's going to be happenstance winners and losers. Like, you're not going to know. It's going to, and sometimes you're going to get lucky and sometimes you're not. One. Two, there's going to be, not corruption's the wrong word, but there's going to be people who are, that don't get the money they're supposed to get. There's just no other way to put that. Like, there's going to be misunderstandings and cross signals and screw ups and all these other things. And if the NCAA does not figure out a way to regulate this, it's going to turn, tawdry's the wrong word, but it's going to turn pretty, cheap and pretty fast. And it's going to turn into, some booster over here who's like, hey man, I'll give you $10,000 to show up to this. And I don't know why I'm using that voice. It's not gonna be great. They've got to figure out a way to put a framework around it. If they don't, I just have a hard time believing that this thing's going to. I don't know what the financial potential is long term, and I don't know that there's a ton of stability from athlete to athlete. I just don't. Some athletes are going to want to do that, and some aren't. Like, I heard a story at another school of a situation where an athlete was supposed to show up at something and didn't because they overslept or something, and they just lost out on the money. That's what? That's just kind of a. Now, if the university was orchestrating and managing that, the guy would have been there. You know what I'm saying? So how you keep the university out of managing that stuff, I just don't know. We're going to help you with your school. We're going to help you with your life skills. We're going to help you with this. We're going to help you find an internship. We're going to help you with this. We're going to get you a semester abroad. We're going to help you get into the right classes. But when it comes to making actual money, we can't do anything. You're alone and you're on your own. Good luck finding an agent. We don't know any. That just seems like a broken framework, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But what's
That'd be
the
like
alternative?
having an academic department and saying, we're not going to have any tutors. You can go hire your own tutor.
But we've talked about this before. If you make that official university business, one, there's more accountability, and maybe that's not something desired by all parties. But two, does not Title IX consideration then start to come into that? And I think that's a big reason why.
We talked about this last week
you
after
never
the
see
podcast.
that. Yeah.
Title IX probably comes into play, and I don't think there's anything wrong with female and male athletes making the same amount of money at the University of Nebraska, regardless of. You would tie it to their scholarship amount versus their notoriety. So, the women's basketball player who gets a full scholarship, if the universities took it over, we get the same amount that the quarterback would. And this is a value statement I'm making here. So I understand that I'm talking about free market versus managed market and all that other stuff, but I think the quarterback would be okay with that. I think.
Really?
Some of them would.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
Yeah, I think it depends.
I think kids today are way more egalitarian. I'm not trying to knock the generations here. I think kids today, and I'm speaking, my daughter's 13 and I'm kind of going up a ways. I think kids today are a lot more egalitarian than people in my generation or your guys' generation. I don't think it's all about money for them.
I think a quarterback, if they ushered in that new system and it was, everyone makes the same amount, I think a quarterback coming out of high school would be okay with that. Mm-hmm. They don't have any say in the matter.
That's right.
Incumbent quarterback who made six figures last year or whatever, 90K quarterbacks, I assume, making big NIL money. I don't know about that.
Fair.
Because then there's this illusion of you're taking money from me.
That's right.
And that doesn't sit well with people.
Well, go to the pros.
Yeah.
Well, in the real world. No. I mean, that. Now, again, the other way is this other way, which is, what we have now, the strip mall. I guarantee you there are athletes that are going to get exploited in this process. They're going to hire agents. The agents are going to charge exorbitant percentages, not 10, but, 17 or 23. Hey, I'm your family member, I'm your dad. I mean, Quinn Ewers, for example, we don't know. We have no idea. But that kid left high school football to go to Ohio State for a semester so that his parents could sign him up for an NIL deal. And you're telling me they didn't get a good chunk of that money? And now he's at a different school. Mm-hmm. That's weird. That's That's not how the beginning of your athletic career in college should start. You're not going to play high school football as a senior. You're going to go to Ohio State. You're not going to play there. You're going to leave there after 3 months, and then you're going to go to Texas. And oh, by the way, your redshirt year's gone. It's gone. Goodbye. That sucks.
How do NIL deals work with transfer portals? Whatever deal he signed and then he moved on.
Yeah, what if it's a multi-year
what's that
deal?
like? Who
This
knows?
is my point.
It's a mess.
This is my point. Well, he signed it with some autograph company in Texas. But that's my point. It's like, if you have a deal with somebody and you're like, hey, we're going to sign you up here, and then like you transfer, what do? Do you give the money back? I assume once you make your appearance, you don't give the money back. But like the shelf life of an advertisement at that point is gone. If you're advertising for some company and then all of a sudden you leave or you're kicked out of school for whatever reason, maybe you flunk out or something, to me, again, it would be better if the universities managed it. But the NCAA did not want that. And now they're in a tough spot because, again, this is a gross generalization. I think most sports writers as it relates to this are libertarian. We love chaos. We love free market. We love everybody should get what they want. Everybody should do what they want. Everybody should transfer when they want. Everybody should get a job when they want. Everybody should do everything they want to do all the time. And nobody should ever tell anybody what to do. When you have a system like that, that's fine. But I'm just telling you that silos and hierarchies exist in that world too. Like it's not. It's not simple as like everybody does whatever they want all the time and everybody's okay. It doesn't work like that. And so long as people are okay with kids getting manipulated and exploited, which is exactly what's going to happen with NIL, that's all right.
And like we talked, again, I feel like we are rehashing our conversation from out in the hallway last year, but we are two of the widely held opinions of sports writers are being pitted against each other here with the Title IX thing. It's like everyone should be able to, athletes should be able to get paid whatever they want based on their name, image, and likeness, and the kids should be able to capitalize on what their value is. Mm-hmm. But then we have this other conflicting view, which is like, well, the women's sports should be treated equally. Yes,
that's right.
So what do you do? Like, the brain breaks at a certain point.
I'm in the managed market category. I'm like, pay Nicklin Hames and Adrian Martinez the same. Have the universities manage it. Nicklin Hames at this point is certainly contributing more to the success of her team. Incredible season for the volleyball team. Football team, not so great. Now I know what our traffic numbers are for football and volleyball, and as great as volleyball is, it's not football. So I get all that. We're not going to start suddenly covering, everything, counting stories all the time. Like if a team is winning, we cover them more. That's just the way it goes. And so volleyball gets more coverage than, say, another sport at Nebraska that doesn't win as much. That's just kind of the way that it goes. It gets way more coverage than men's track and field. But I would be more for the managed market. I'm just saying that if you have the other market, it's going to be this, and people are going to lie about how much money they make. They're going to lie to the kids. They're going to lie to the media. There's no way to prove it.
Nick Saban day one, Bryce Young.
It's a lie.
Nick Saban day one, Bryce Young.
Yeah.
Approaching seven
That's
figures. Right. We have no idea whether that's
true.
And
he might have. You never know.
Sure. Entirely possible. Those Bama booster pockets run deep, but we don't know. But it certainly behooves both Nick Saban and Bryce Young to tell people that.
And you make it again. You just make a great point. Is there's that idea of everybody should always do what they want all the time, but everybody should be equal. And those two value systems don't.
Yeah. They clash.
Yep. Well, that's right. All right, I've rambled enough about that.
Do you have another?
I do. This is a little. One. We just talked about him, Adrian Martinez. Obviously, as the quarterback at Nebraska, you're going to be a story throughout the season. He's the face of. I mean, if Scott Frost is face 1A, Martinez was face 1B of the program this year. And I think that as long as the Kansas State Wildcats are not playing in the same window as Nebraska next year, I think every television in this state will be tuned to see what Adrian Martinez is doing at Kansas State. Not only will they be watching, they will then be comparing what Adrian Martinez did at Kansas State to whatever quarterback X / Logan Smothers did for Nebraska that same weekend. This is the affair with Adrian Martinez. It's not over. It's not even close to over. People are going to consume Adrian Martinez football content, stories, I think, the same way I think my former employer, the Manhattan Mercury, probably just gained a couple of subscribers.
I'll bet they're excited.
I think they are. I mean, I talked to the former my former boss, Ryan Black, who's the Kansas State beat writer at the Mercury when Kansas State came into PBA on Sunday, and we were talking about that. It's an interesting kind of deal that I'm dealing with here. Martinez kind of did the reverse me with that move, but yeah, I do think that that's going to Adrian Martinez's name is still going to hang over Memorial Stadium every week. That story will be ever present.
Are you asking me if we're going to send somebody to the September 3rd game against South Dakota?
I'm not asking.
Kansas State, Nebraska. Or Kansas State, South Dakota.
I'm not asking that.
What do you think? I think we should.
I think it would be worth it. I do.
Yeah, I think so.
What do you think, Evan?
I think
so.
I think there will be some people wearing Nebraska stuff at that game too to watch Adrian. I think he's had that effect on people.
What's interesting is we got a taste of it last year with Wandale Robinson, but this will be way more.
Oh yeah,
different scale.
Because Wandale had a great year for Kentucky this year, and I think people were kind of aware of it, but they were also sort of like putting it out of mind. This is a totally different deal, not because there'll be people that follow Adrian because they like him and because they've gotten to know him for 4 years, and then there's going to be people that are going to kind of hate watch him and say like, man, if he does well, then that shines poorly on Scott Frost and this staff.
Yep.
And if he does poorly, well, then maybe there was something there, or how he's used. I think there's going to be a lot of different motivations, just like at Nebraska. Some people loved Martinez for how he carried himself and the big plays. Some people didn't because of the record and the 4 losing seasons. And I think all those different motivations and emotions will be intensely channeled into watching him next year.
If Adrian Martinez, I don't know what he scored this year, 27 total touchdowns, something like that.
Good question. Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Okay.
14 and 13.
He does the same exact thing at Kansas State with virtually the same completion percentage numbers, passing yards numbers, so on and so forth.
Oh.
But Kansas State wins 8 or 9 games, and Nebraska wins 6. People are going to lose their minds. That will, I think that, it sounds dumb to say this out loud, but I think Adrian Martinez's performance at Kansas State will factor in significantly to the public perception of Scott Frost's job status at the school next year.
That's so interesting.
And for what it's worth, I think he'll do well at Kansas State.
It's not. I mean, it's a really interesting point.
It's a sound program, special teams wise. They have a sound O-line. They're not world beaters,
and
but
they play in the Big 12.
Exactly.
That's
what I was going to
say.
say.
Biggest determining factor. It's not even close to the Big 10. It's not even close. I'm serious. I mean, would you agree?
Oh yeah.
I don't think they're close.
I would agree.
I don't know that Texas and Oklahoma will be able to wiggle out of there by next year, but they're going to try. They want
they're
to
going to be there another year, but I mean, even with Texas and Oklahoma, it's not close.
Right.
No doubt about it.
I would wager that there are 3 teams in the Big 10 that are better than Oklahoma.
Wow.
I would wager that there are 4 teams in the Big 10, maybe 5 that are better than Baylor and would beat Baylor. If Nebraska and Baylor were on a neutral field, I think Baylor would be a field goal favorite. Maybe.
Wow.
3-9 Nebraska against the Big 12 champion, and I'm not exaggerating.
Wow.
And that isn't to say that Baylor wouldn't win the game, because honestly, I think Baylor would.
Yeah.
But just so we're clear about the dividing line here, it's not all that comparable. The leagues are just so much different. I mean, Nebraska was 3-9, Oklahoma was 10-2. We all went to the game. Mm-hmm. There just wasn't that much difference between the two teams.
Weird year for Oklahoma, but yeah.
But there wasn't much difference.
No.
Over the course of that game, the difference was some kicking. OU made a couple of plays. Nebraska didn't. Nebraska screwed up a couple drives, but when you watch that game physically, I think Nebraska actually matched up really well physically with them. Michigan State and Oklahoma looked comparable. I mean, it was pretty startling. So Nebraska's problem is that they're in a hell of a tough league, and all of a sudden just when you thought that they were done with Ohio State, Michigan wins the Big Ten championship. And guess who Nebraska gets for the next 6 years? Michigan. Jeez. I mean, right into the right from the frying pan into the fire. Because Michigan's going to get good now. Now that they believe, oh man, they're going to be good every friggin' year.
It's true. Yeah, any
That's
more?
a great point about Adrian. That's just terrific. I mean, really, that could happen. That could happen.
I don't think it'll reach the athletic director's office, but around the world of
Absolutely.
Nebraska football, outside of the stadium, people be talking. Like I tweeted this out a couple of times. I would just eavesdrop on people's conversations walking into the stadium this year, and people are just talking mess about whatever Iowa's doing. People cussing out Iowa or cheering on if they hear that Iowa's down at half. It's gonna be the same thing with Adrian. Cheer, jeer, whatever. People are gonna be talking about it outside the stadium.
It's true.
And if he has a lot of success, and he might, I'm sorry, I mispronounced that word. If he has a lot of success, it's going to start to get out. Well, he wanted to come back. Like, that's going to be the impression. Well, he actually wanted to come back. I don't want. There's no guarantee Adrian plays this year. And we'll see.
Sure.
And that's a serious rehab. So.
Get another story, Sam?
Even if it extends another year, he's always. People are not going to forget him anytime soon.
Not really. Strength of women athletics in Nebraska.
Yeah.
It's really good. The volleyball team had a magical run. Now, to be clear, at the beginning of the year, we kind of thought the volleyball team was going to be in the national title game. Somewhere in there, they struggled early, and that changed our impression. But I think if you went back to the beginning of the year, I think they were preseason 3 in the poll. They finished 2.
They technically had 2 seasons in 2021. They had the spring season
Right.
and then this one.
But if you look at the preseason of like before the fall season, I think they were 3. So it wasn't like they were. They ended up where people kind of expected them to be at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
It just took them. It was a funny journey to get there. The women's basketball team, I think, is playing really well. Obviously, the bowling team won a national championship. Soccer didn't underachieved, but got better at the end of the year. And then there's softball, and we just don't know. And then, definitely baseball, the way that people feel about that program, what they did at Arkansas, they lost, but what they did and how people feel about it, the way the crowd swelled toward the end of the season, that final weekend, the anticipation for next year is, I think it's going to be really high.
People are counting days.
You're covering the good beat, because I think the anticipation people have for that is, you know how baseball fans are, and I think people are starting to feel like, just like he said, when that calendar turns to January, I always post the Nebraska football schedule. I might post the baseball schedule this year.
When Nebraska got blown out by Auburn, I just thought I'd tweet out how long until Nebraska's baseball season started, and it blew up. Like I didn't expect hundreds of interactions to that particular tweet. And the one thing that's been interesting about Nebraska baseball for a number of years now is it sort of gets the leftovers from football and basketball. And lately, that's been a lot of frustration,
right?
A lot of anger. And so when if baseball, say, loses an early series, people are ready to just throw in the towel. This men's athletics at Nebraska, whatever. But if they do well the way that they did last year, people are so thirsty for a men's team sport to do well after what football and basketball have put them through that they absolutely do show up. And, having gone to Arkansas last spring for that regional and the game that they beat the Razorbacks in Baum-Walker Stadium, I mean, I get chills thinking about it. I mean, there were the Go Big Red chants. It's this unbelievable top-of-the-line SEC facility. And here comes Nebraska, disrespected champion of the Big Ten, coming in, and they were essentially a reliever away in a winner-take-all game from advancing to a super regional. And, people are excited about Will Bolt. I did a story last year. When you look at the sort of the modern history of major college baseball coaches, it's always year 2, almost always, when their programs take off. Like it's a big jump in year 2, and that's what we saw with Will Bolt, even in a weird, quirky conference-only year that the Big Ten put out there. So I think that moment, that Arkansas regional, even though they lost, did seem to signal like this could be something different from what we've seen, going back to when Nebraska was in the College World Series in the mid-2000s.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. They may not be as good of a team as last year in some ways. Last year was a super senior team, and there was a bunch of good players. But you think the coaching staff is gonna take them over the wire, and then you just have this confidence once they get in the NCAA tournament, they're gonna turn it on. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? Where they may not be as good. They had a really good team last year. That was a good team.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they have as many high-end guys, at least going in, but they might have more depth, which is interesting, and that plays well in a regional.
They need the rookie. They need the kid. They need Drew Christo to be good. They need him to be good.
And Max Anderson could make a jump. There's a lot of different guys.
But then they need a great pitcher. You know,
they do. The way I looked at it, like last year preseason, I picked Nebraska to finish third in the Big Ten, and the coaches didn't pick him in the top 6.
Right.
Your national outlets picked him around 8th on average. I thought they were better than that, and people, I thought, took notice that I had them higher. I feel like next year I might also pick them third in the Big Ten, just without doing a ton of research, and I feel like that might be low,
right,
relative to what some of the national outlets say. But yeah, it'll be interesting because depth does play in college baseball. That's a winning formula, and Nebraska for a long time has had good, top 10, 12 players, and then it really drops off. And I feel like they have more depth than that. So we'll see if it translates, but yeah, it's going to be a different sort of team next year.
I haven't seen or experienced the baseball atmosphere, but I can tell you that what you said about fans being thirsty, having covered football, covered basketball, it's a bit of an understatement. People are not, oh, my water bottle is out. People are in the desert cutting open a camel like they do in the movies and camping out in there. That's how thirsty they are.
And again, my vibe as it relates to the football program is that it's more positive than the men's basketball program right now. I think there's a sense about men's basketball that's very,
it's just so disjointed,
very, very frustrated. Like, this is not. The football program had a hellaciously hard schedule. They have
kept
weaknesses.
You interested, though.
They did.
For entire
the basketball
games.
team really has to turn a corner very soon, or otherwise, I think that the experiment could be coming to a close. I
think they played one team in January that didn't make the tournament last year, so we'll see.
I respect. I got a message from somebody I respect a lot. A, knows the game. B, diehard fan, and this is the worst team in the history of Nebraska ball.
Wow.
And that's a person who loves the team, who loves the sport above and beyond football, like a lot of these fans do. It's the worst team in the history of Nebraska ball, aesthetically.
That's saying something.
It
is. And there's been some bad teams.
Mm-hmm.
But the team 2 years ago was bad. But I think the feeling is like, this is not how it's supposed to look. These are hard players to like, all that stuff. So Fred's got to turn this around fast. They need to start, he really does. Because otherwise I think it could be, we'll see.
Mm.
Okay.
You going to pick some bowl games?
Yeah, let's do it. So we got a bunch to do.
Go quick.
You're way ahead.
So we have to do enough games to keep it interesting into bowl season.
Yeah, well, sort of. But at the end of the day,
unless someone goes
you're
like
so
25-0, yeah,
you're really not going to lose.
Sounds fun.
So let's just find out what happens, and I don't even have written it down. I'll just record it off the podcast.
We can just talk about a couple of the bowl games if you'd rather do that.
No, let's pick them.
Okay, all right.
Let's have fun with it. We'll see who does the best in the bowl games. You're obviously going to win the national. I'm not trying to beat you for the season. I'm just trying to see how I do in the bowls.
All right.
Jimmy could beat you, I guess. Lockheed
Martin
Armed Forces Bowl. Missouri plays Army.
Oh, jeez. I'll take Army.
Mizzou.
Army. North Texas, the Frisco Football Classic. North Texas against Miami of Ohio.
Oh.
Miami is a 3-point favorite.
No. Miami's Ohio University's arch rival. Never once will I pick
North Texas?
The Red Hawks.
North Texas.
North Texas for you. North Texas for you. I'll take North Texas. This is a fun one. Central Florida against Florida in the Gasparilla Bowl. Florida's a touchdown favorite.
Fun fact about Miami, I feel like I didn't hate them enough. They had 2 bars in their entire college town. It's tough.
Wow.
Anyways, I'll take who is this? Who's playing in this game?
UCF in Florida.
Florida.
Florida. These are always fun intrastate games.
I'm going to take Florida too. I don't think Dylan Gabriel's playing in the game. I don't really know.
I don't think so either.
I'm sorry.
Wouldn't make any sense, right? Yeah.
So, yeah. The Hawaii Bowl. Memphis playing Hawaii. Memphis is an 8.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I like Memphis big.
Same.
I'll take Memphis. We'll skip the Camilla Bowl. Yeah. Quick Lane Bowl, Detroit Bowl. Western Michigan against Nevada. Western Michigan is a 7-point favorite. Wow. Western Michigan beat Pittsburgh this year, incidentally.
Yeah. MAC champs, right?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. I'll take Western Michigan.
Yeah, same.
I'll take Western Michigan. Incidentally, the Quick Lane Bowl, this is the bowl where the Big Ten didn't get in because they didn't have enough teams. Boston College against East Carolina in the Military Bowl. BC is a 3-point favorite.
Boston College.
Yeah, I'll take BC.
I'll take ECU.
Oh.
Houston against Auburn in the Birmingham Bowl.
That's fun.
Auburn is a 2.5-point favorite. I'll take Houston there.
I'll take Houston too. No Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, same.
Air Force against Louisville. Louisville is a 1.5-point favorite in the First Responder Bowl. I believe this used to be the Independence Bowl.
Yeah, I'm big on taking the armed forces teams when they're in these kind of weird one-off situations. It's just hard to prepare.
I go the other way because teams have time to prepare for them. Give me Louisville.
I'll take Air Force. Mississippi State against Texas Tech in the Liberty Bowl, one of my favorite bowl games.
The Mike Leach Bowl.
Mississippi State's a 9.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I'll take Mississippi State.
I'm going to go Tech.
I'm going to go Mississippi State. They don't have I don't know. Tech's in between coaches.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think it'd be a very competitive game, But anyway, another one of my favorite bowls: UCLA against North Carolina State in the Holiday Bowl.
That is fun.
NC State is a 1-point favorite. I'll take the Bruins.
Same.
I'll take NC State.
Yeah, I like UCLA's team. I have all season. Yeah. West Virginia against Minnesota in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. This is in Phoenix, Arizona. Minnesota's a 4.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I'll take Fleck.
Can't row the boat in the desert, PJ. I'll take West Virginia.
Minnesota for me. SMU against Virginia in the Fenway Bowl. This is in Fenway Park.
Cool.
God bless it. December 29th in Fenway Park. Ooh. Virginia's a 2.5-point favorite.
If I knew what the weather forecast was, I'd feel better about picking Virginia. I'll take Virginia, though.
Yeah, Virginia.
If it's going to snow.
I'll take Virginia, I guess.
We're all feeling good about that
That's a
one.
strange game. I don't know. I wouldn't
Cool
wanna play
idea. Cool idea.
It is. That's a small.
Yeah, it is.
I think that's tighter than Wrigley Field.
Could be.
Balls out of bounds into the green monster and just weird.
Because, I don't even know what it is down the left field line, but it's tight.
It's barely 3, if it is. Maybe
Because they
310.
use the wall as the
Yeah.
deterrent. Very strange. I don't even know how they can fit a football field in there. Maryland against Virginia Tech in the Pinstripe Bowl. This is at Yankee Stadium.
I'll take Virginia Tech.
Vatech.
Maryland is a 3.5-point favorite, just so you know. I'll take Maryland. I think they have a better quarterback. Braxton Burmeister's transferring. I'll take Maryland. Clemson, Iowa State in the Cheez-It Bowl. Clemson a 1-point favorite. Duh.
Yeah.
Give me the talent of Clemson.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'll take Clemson as well. The Alamo Bowl.
Kind of crazy that Matt Campbell is still at Iowa State.
It is. That's a tough game for him to win, too.
Yeah.
Oregon, Oklahoma. In the Alamo Bowl, OU a 4.5-point favorite.
Two schools
Two
with
teams
new
with
coaches.
Wow.
Completely new
Goodness.
coaches.
Uh,
I don't know what Dan Lanning's doing. I wish I'd paid more attention, but
I assume Caleb Williams is playing on that
Yeah.
game. I'm going
Yeah, he's
Oklahoma.
playing in the game.
that's
Oklahoma.
why I'm thinking Oklahoma.
nobody knows exactly what he's going to do after it.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been impressed with Oregon all year. Oklahoma.
It's mind-boggling that they beat Ohio State.
Duke's Mayo Bowl, North Carolina and South Carolina. North Carolina is a 9-point favorite. Every year I get a little thing of Duke's Mayo. You ever had it? Ever had it?
No, never
It's
had
good.
Is there anything different about it?
Yeah, it's a little bit tangy, a little bit spicy. It's good.
Horseradishy?
No. Mm-mm. We can talk more about it off the air. North Carolina's a 9-point favorite there. I'll take the Tar
me
Heels.
too.
Heels.
That's a good 6-6 team right there. Tennessee against Purdue in the Music City Bowl. Tennessee is a 4.5-point favorite. We covered a Music City Bowl there. Tennessee's going to have a huge crowd. I'll take Tennessee. I think Purdue's a better team, but in that venue, it's basically a road game.
Is David Bell even playing in that game, or did he declare
I don't
already?
know.
He might have declared. Either way, give me the Vols.
I would advise him not to. I'll take Tennessee.
There's like 55,000 fans there for Tennessee.
Great season for Purdue, though.
Absurd.
Great season for Purdue, by the way.
And they wore gray. It was very strange. Pittsburgh at Michigan State in the Peach Bowl. Michigan State's a 2.5-point favorite. Michigan State has a quarterback. Pittsburgh doesn't.
Does not.
That's not a fair fight.
Michigan State.
Yeah, not a fair
Michigan
fight.
State.
Michigan
Because
State.
Michigan State doesn't have Kenneth Walker now. But I think they'll be fine.
I don't care.
Give me the Spartans. Wisconsin, Arizona State in the Las Vegas Bowl. This is the game I wanted to go to. Wisconsin's a 6.5-point favorite against the Sun Devils.
10 days off for basketball, too. I could have gone. Sucks. I'll take Wisconsin.
I'm going to go Arizona State.
I'll take Wisconsin. Now, one thing that's true is Wisconsin's better late in seasons, usually because they wear the teams down, so on and so forth.
Pac-12's not ready
But
for
those
that.
warm weather bowl games don't always treat them great.
No, they
either.
don't. You're absolutely right. Gator Bowl, Wake Forest, Texas A&M. A&M is a 3-point favorite.
Yeah, I'll take Jimbo.
Wake. I don't think A&M has their quarterback, right?
Wake.
So give me Wake.
I'm with Wake. Washington State, Miami in the Sun Bowl. Another one of my favorites. Sorry about that.
You good? I'll take Miami.
There's another dueling no coach, new coach situation, right?
Washington State's interim became the
Yeah,
head, so
okay.
he's there.
All right, I'll take Miami.
Washington State, the weather is usually not great for that game, and Miami has struggled at times in that bowl game. They've been there multiple times, I think. Central Michigan against Boise State in the Arizona Bowl. Give me Boise. They're an 8-point favorite.
Boise for sure.
Yep.
Then we're down to the last couple. Cincinnati at Alabama against Alabama in the Cotton Bowl. Alabama's a 2-touchdown favorite.
It's really cool that Cincinnati's here.
Mm-hmm.
If whatever else number 4 team was in this game, I think much fewer people would watch it, unless it was Notre Dame. Alabama.
You got to take Bama, but seeing what Cincinnati did against Georgia in their
Yeah.
bowl game last year,
It's cool.
I hope it's a good game.
Me too.
But Bama.
Cincinnati.
Oh, look at this guy.
I think you can't just say Cincinnati. You gotta.
You just being contrarian here? Or?
Cincinnati is, let's be clear. Alabama lost straight up. No joke, no crap, to a team that's not as good as Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama almost lost to a team that's no joke, no crap, nowhere near as good as Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
I think Alabama's a very good team. I think Cincinnati's strength is pass defense. It's what they do better than anything else. Honestly, better than anyone else. Alabama's defense isn't great. I give them a shot. Why not? Georgia, Michigan. Georgia's an 8-point favorite. I don't see it with Georgia. The quarterback situation there has been in flux all season long. They have an incredible defense, but at the same time, my goodness, they not, in really big games, figure it out. I'm going to take Michigan.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think they're going to play Alabama, but let's have fun with Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Michigan.
I think I definitely like Michigan to keep this close. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think both of these teams are a little bit better on defense than offense. Yeah, feels like giving one away though to pass up an opportunity to take Georgia there. So I'll take Georgia.
Yeah, I got to take Georgia too. I think their defense is too good.
Michigan hangs though for sure.
Should be a good game.
Penn State, Arkansas in the Outback Bowl. Penn State a 1-point favorite. Sean Clifford is playing.
Arkansas.
Same.
I'll take Penn State. They're going to be healthy. Oklahoma State, Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl. Notre Dame is a 2-point favorite.
Yeah, Notre Dame. I don't love what has been happening with Oklahoma State's offense all year.
Yeah, me too. I'm with Notre Dame on that one.
Yep, I like their new coach. I like the momentum that they're going to try to get going.
Yeah,
Notre
it's rare
Dame.
you lose a coach. I mean, even though you made an in-house hire, it's rare that it feels like they have momentum, right?
Mm-hmm.
Iowa, Kentucky.
Oh,
Kentucky's
boy.
a 3-point favorite in the Citrus Bowl.
Yeah, Kentucky.
These are games that don't go well for Iowa typically. Kentucky.
Iowa.
Oh.
Utah, Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. Ohio State is a 6.5-point favorite.
It's going to be a good game.
This is the classic. If Ohio State loses, they weren't interested in playing it. The game. I will take Ohio State.
Same. I think they're motivated.
Utah. Baylor at Ole Miss. Mississippi's a 1-point favorite again in the Sugar Bowl. By the way, I think Utah's honestly just a better team. I think Ohio State's got a lot of work to do. They're not the same team they were.
Right, for sure.
Couple years. Utah's going to run the ball, and they're going to play defense, and they're going to slow that guy down. The book's out on C.J. Stroud. The book's out. Nebraska put the book out, And then Oregon kind of put the book out, then Nebraska kind of put the book out, and then Michigan really put the book out. Book's out. They're gonna have to figure something else out about their program.
Yeah.
They can't score. They can't score enough points.
And a 5-star just walked out the door. Jack Miller's in the portal
Yeah,
too.
it's
not great.
not good. They can't score enough points to overcome some of the weaknesses they have on defense. Baylor and Ole Miss, Sugar Bowl.
Baylor.
Do we know, like, Matt Corral? We know what's going on there?
Yeah, he's playing the game.
Okay. Ole Miss.
He's a 1-point favorite.
Ole Miss.
I'll take Ole Miss. I've liked them more all year. And the last one is LSU Kansas State, the Bill Bush, Mickey Joseph, and Adrian Martinez Bowl.
Nice.
Kansas State's 3-point favorite.
Yeah, I'll take Kansas State.
I will too. Who knows who's going to play quarterback for LSU?
That'd be interesting.
Give me LSU. They've got the athletes.
They do.
Like, they've figured out a way to win games.
How are they going to get the ball to them?
I don't know. They'll figure it out.
All right.
LSU.
So between Alabama and Georgia, who's their national champion?
I'll take Alabama.
Alabama.
I'll take Michigan to beat Cincinnati and Michigan to win the national championship.
Wow.
That's what I'll.
That would be something.
That's what I'll do.
That would be something. That's the kind of thing that would flip the college football world upside down.
Wouldn't it though?
I do, yeah.
The sport.
Michigan ascends to a different level if they win the national championship.
The sport really needs Michigan to win the national title. I mean, we're at a moment where if Alabama wins another one,
yeah,
it's gonna get like
So much fatigue.
Who the F cares? Like they need the biggest game this year was Michigan State. Like you need more of the nation to pay more attention. If Alabama just goes, Heisman national champion, they keep doing that. It's not healthy for the sport.
Well, I would argue that if you have a villain, it's always a good thing.
I don't know if
someone
they're a villain,
to root against. I think people hate Alabama for sure.
Yeah,
People want them to lose,
that's fair.
particularly against Cincinnati. Everyone that doesn't have a connection to the state of Alabama wants them to lose that game. That's healthy.
I think the numbers indicate that like people are really tired of watching Alabama. Like there's just a fatigue there.
There's a difference. I'll concede there's a difference between a villain and an invincible villain.
Yeah.
If you never believe that the villain is actually going to fall, that's a problem.
Yeah. Like, I think the LSU year, people were thrilled because it was LSU and it was Burrow and it was fun.
But even then, it kind of felt inevitable. It was like a different thing, and it's still the SEC.
Michigan, to me, if they can win it, it changes the sport. The sport desperately needs.
Yeah, and then also if Lincoln Riley puts USC over the top, if Marcus Freeman can keep the recruiting momentum at Notre Dame, all that stuff matters a lot.
They so need.
Cristobal can revive Miami.
It would be really coincidental if it was Michigan too, because of what they did in baseball a couple years ago. They were the northern team to make the CWS final. So maybe they'll break that glass ceiling in football here in another week or two.
Needs to happen in a lot of sports. All right.
Thanks for listening. This is our last podcast for 2021. Yes?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
We'll be back in 2022. Enjoy the bowl season. Enjoy some food. Enjoy the playoff. Should be a lot of fun. We'll be back with you guys next year. See ya.